My name is Cloud. Welcome back to another video. We smashed a like goal of 20 likes, so let's get into this video. So, this is specifically for Nvidia graphics cards. I do want to disclose. Do not specialize in AMD, so forgive me. There are plenty of videos out there for AMD. So, let's get into the video. So, you want to open up your Nvidia Control Panel. You can do that by right-clicking your desktop if you're on Windows 10, Windows 11, fuck Windows 11. You can pretty much just type in Nvidia Control Panel on here, and it should come up for you. If not, if you're on Windows 11 and it doesn't come up for you, there are plenty of tutorials out there on YouTube. So let's get into the settings. You want to have the use advanced 3D image settings. You want to have that on. I am very tired, by the way, so forgive me if my brain stutters a little bit. So, manage 3D settings. You can just copy these settings. It's, it's mainly off preference in how your computer handles it. If what I have doesn't work with your computer, just fiddle with it, Don't change nothing too drastic, but just fiddle with it a little bit. So, you could pause the video. I'll scroll down. You could pause the video and copy them down. And you just want to make sure that, for this, you have your GPU that you use for gaming. You want to have that selected. So that may be a 4090, 4080, 2060, 1650, 1660, 1680, whatever it is, whatever GPU you have. You can have a fucking 9000 series, like whatever it is. Just make sure it's, it's selected. Prefer maximum performance that you would want to have selected. Definitely. We're going to be going into power settings too in a moment as well. So just make sure all this is copied onto your Nvidia Control Panel. Now we're going to hop into power options. Now with power options, you can get something called ultimate performance. It's preferred. I have no problem on high performance, so I just use high performance. You can use high performance. If it doesn't work, use ultimate. If you don't know how to enable ultimate performance, you pretty much want to go to your terminal. So go to your terminal, run it as administrator. And luckily I have, just click yes when that little screen comes up. And what you want to do, I have it copied already, but this is the specific command you would want to type in. The command will be in the description to make it a lot easier. I hate when people tell you to type in a command and don't put it in the description. So you want to do power config, CFG, duplicate scheme, and then this tag, and it'll. I'm not gonna press enter because I already have 3 of them. Ultimate performance it'll give you. So just type that in. The command will be in the description below. Now we're going to get into MW3. All right, so now we're in MW3. So now what we want to do is you want to go over to your graphics. Now you want to go over your display. I prefer full screen borderless. If you have 2 monitors, it allows you to kind of jump from 2 without actually having to press the Windows key, then jumping over, then closing down your game. It's so much better. Put your preferred monitor. So I have my gaming monitor set to my, for my game to be on my gaming monitor. Obviously that should be common sense. I mean, I'm going over really simplistic shit that everyone should know. Display adapter, make sure it's your actual graphics card. I'm going to go through my settings and you copy them. You can copy them if you'd like to. Okay, with VSync, I will tell you with VSync, it really is dependent on your computer. Sometimes you do need VSync, sometimes you don't. Really depends on what it is. So experiment with VSync. You may be able to get, if it may not run the way that you want it to, screw around with VSync, and there are going to be some other settings you may need to screw around with. So now for custom frame limit, whatever your computer, like, play a game of Call of Duty. Play a game, a public match, play, and just keep an eye on your FPS. If you don't know how to enable your FPS counter, you would want to go, I believe, I don't know why they change stuff like this. So you want to go over to your FPS counter, which is in interface under It's an interface under the telemetry, or whatever how you pronounce it. I am partially dyslexic, forgive me. You want to go to your FPS counter. Just turn that on. I also put on my temperature and my VRAM usage. That's really all that's really important. You really don't need to know anything else. Probably gonna put on my packet loss too, actually, and server latency. Actually, you can also turn those on as well, so you see how much, like, how well your internet's doing. And then the server latency that you're on, which is you're gonna be seeing that a lot more in videos, which I don't know why I didn't have that turned on. But turn that on and play a game of pubs and see what your FPS hits at. So for example, mine usually hits at like 130, and then will drop to like 125 sometimes. So what I did is I just put my max FPS limit up to just 125, and it never really goes below 120 ever. It usually stays at 125 throughout most of my videos. Like, you can watch the previous video, which I'll have linked in the description below, and you'll see that my FPS, like my FPS during games, never, it changes by maybe 2 or 3 FPS, and it's consistent at that FPS. So for your custom FPS limit, just put it like a little bit below what the maximum it hits. And then your menu custom frame limit have around half of what your gameplay custom frame FPS limit is. Focus mode, preference. All this is mainly preference at this point now of what you want it to be. Now quality, more preference. So what I'm running it as, for render resolution, running it at 100. Should always be running it at 100. Nvidia DLSS, this is mainly based on your computer. I run best with Nvidia DLSS. A lot of people do, so I prefer trying that out first, and then from there you can decide on, where, what Nvidia setting works for you. There is also AMD, which I don't know anything really about AMD, so again, there are plenty AMD videos out there for MW3. Path tracing ray reconstruction, I have on, but I also have it set to ultra performance, so it just makes the game look a little bit better. It doesn't really have much performance. It says it has no performance. It does a little bit, because also this game is unoptimized, so it's gonna have some performance drops, but I have it on ultra performance, so the performance is pretty much, probably it's nothing, and this is probably what makes me drop about 3 FPS half the time, but that's what it does. VRAM scale target preference, I find the smoothest FPS and the smoothest gameplay at 80, so try out 80. If not, you could always bring it down, but I run it at 80 because I also have an 11 gigabyte graphics card. You don't obviously want to max it out too much, but I run it at 80. Texture resolution. Now, you could just copy these. These are all mainly preference as well, but I would run things at low because it takes up more FPS. So yeah, I'd run it at low. If you have a 40 series, you could pretty much knock this up to fucking like high if you wanted to, and it would run fine. This is mainly for just ultra performance and for the game to look good but run smoothly. So if you do want more quality, you can up some of these settings. That is perfectly fine. So you can just copy these. You can have bullet impacts on. It doesn't really do anything. It just kind of makes it look a bit more realistic, which is nice. Considering this game is not realistic, considering we have Nicki Minaj running around with a fucking AK-47 and a fucking dual-wielding fucking MAC-10 or some shit. Like, yeah, no. Shader quality. Shaders, you always want to have low if you want performance. Shaders take up so much RAM. They take up so much CPU power. It is ridiculous. Unless you're running god tier CPU, you may be able to get away with 100 FPS or maybe 120 running mid tier shaders. Especially if you're running around the map, turning your camera around, doing fucking crackhead fucking movement, whatever the case is. On-demand texture streaming, have off. I mean, that's common sense. Everyone says have it off, and they're right, have it off. It's not great. Local demand texture streaming, I have a normal. It's fine. I don't mind it. It doesn't really change much. Then the shadow and lighting, very low or off. So you want to copy that. Definitely, if you want performance, copy this. Exactly. For your environment, this is subjective. You can have it on whatever. It doesn't really impact anything too much. It does have like tensillization you can have on near. So it just, things that are closer to you look a little bit better. So this is not really required. You don't need this. If anything, it gets in the way of shit. So have that on low. Physics quality, I mean, it's water, so it's gonna take up CPU. So don't fuck with it too much. It says low, but it's gonna take up a little bit more than what it says. Now for your view, this is all preference from here. I'll go through it, but this is all preference. This is all preference. And yeah, so the higher the FOV, the less FPS you will get, though. I will say that. I've noticed with Call of Duty, at least with my computer. So just want to note that there. So I'll kind of skim through here. By the way, if you play with World Motion Blur and Weapon Motion Blur, you must not get car sick or like just straight up sick at all. Honestly. Now we're going to be going over to a custom match. So, and we're going to do our Nvidia GeForce Experience filters. If you don't have that, I will put a video in the description where to get Nvidia GeForce Experience. And let's head over to the next section. So, to get the game to look as vibrant like this, so you can obviously see I went into a map with a lot of color, so you're able to see a lot better how much it improves the game. So if you don't know how to get to Nvidia GeForce Experience, it's Alt-Z, Alt-Z. I don't know why people say Z. I just say it because some people already know what that means. So Alt-Z, and it'll open up your game filter. Just to show you, for example, if I turn it off, this is what the game looks like. Off, this is what the game looks like with everything. It really, really helps. So brightness and contrast, this is kind of more a little bit down to preference, but you do want it to be a bit more visible. If you want it to look exactly like this is exactly what you wouldn't want to have your brightness and contrast. In order to add them, you just go to add filter, and you can see here, you know, you can see all of them here, and just kind of pick it. I already have them selected in, obviously. So you would want to have them, the brightness and contrast, you would want to set the exposure to 10%, your contrast to 55%, your highlights to -80%, your shadows to -70%, and your gamma to -16. And then your color. You want to add another filter, and it would be your color. So tint color, 60%. Tint intensity, 15%. Temperature, 0%. And your vibrance at 100%. Now for the game filters and some of the MW3 settings, I do want to give props to ToxicShooter. This is kind of the basis of his settings. I love his game filter for his Nvidia, so this is his, and this is what he uses. Props to him. And yeah, so I want to give props where props are given. I always give props where props are given. A link to the video for him will be in the description below. A lot of the settings are similar to his. I did change mine mainly to preference for my computer because everyone's computer is different, and in order to get the smoothest amount of FPS. Obviously, there are some times my FPS does kind of do this, especially in bright maps like this. But on an example, high rise, I get a lot more FPS, and I'm also recording. So sometimes it will stutter, it will go down a little bit. But as you can see, the jumps are lowest it goes down is 108. But as you can see here, also this map is clearly unoptimized for the life of you. So yeah, you're not going to get a lot on this map. But I've had the smoothest FPS, the smoothest games using these settings. I've also had a lot better time noticing players. And, you know, yeah, so now I kind of want to go into the interface stuff, which this is kind of last. This is not like the graphic stuff. This is just kind of for, you know, your really truly personal preference, which we're gonna go there right now. All right, we're back to our settings. You want to go to color customization. Now this is preference. The human mind tends to recognize yellow, so I have my enemy set to yellow. I have myself set to purple. My team set to blue. I recommend watching ToxicShooter's video. I kind of have a lot of his settings in a way too, because it's been a while since I've had to actually adjust this, because usually I've had no problem in COD with just the default settings. And you know, so I recommend giving him a watch, because he's great with content. I really highly recommend him. So this is all, like I said, down to preference, what you would like. I've seen people, I'm pretty sure you have too, seen people set it to pink, you know, and to other colors that they notice better. But usually the human brain recognizes yellow first, so it would make sense to make that an enemy and not yourself, you know. What are you, Gothic? Come on. So you could put on color filter too. I screwed with all the filters. I found color filter 2 tends to work the best for me. So you can have the color filter. You can set that to color filter too. So that's pretty much all of the extra settings for, you know, for enemies, players, you know, and for your team on the HUD map and all that shit. So now we're going to go over to our sound settings. This is kind of something I found from ToxicShooter, which, again, give him a watch. Never knew my computer could do this. So you want to go to sound settings. You want to, you know, right click your little speaker icon. You want to go to your sound settings. This is obviously Windows 11. You want to click more sound settings. You want to get to this. All right, I'm not on Windows 11, so if you don't know how to get to this, recommend going to watching how to get to it in Windows 10. So you want to go to properties. You want to right click, go to properties, and then you want to go to enhancements, and you would want to change it to loudness equalization. So everything that's loud or everything that's quiet will be the same volume as things that are loud. So it's pretty much balancing all the volumes out. Kind of like how dynamic compression works, which is crazy. It's cool. So it's pretty much making everything leveled. So footsteps will be the same like loudness as like a grenade explosion. So you'll be able to hear footsteps a lot better. I usually have it off now. I used to use it and it kind of fucked with me a little bit, so I have it off now. But if it doesn't fuck with you, I mean, give it a shot. It may work better for you. So those are my settings for, you know, for audio and stuff like that for the PC. And then obviously, you know, you have your audio settings here in COD, which is just put on home theater or whatever that you personally like. They say bass boost is best. Not really. I find it better with home theater. Like I said, it really depends on its preference and what works best for you. But yeah, that's pretty much going to sum it up for this video, because I mean, the settings aren't that crazy, and the stuff you'd have to do to your PC aren't crazy neither. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's try to get this video to 50 likes. Let's try to go a bit higher. Let's try to get this to 50 likes. If we do, I'll make a rage Tage. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and peace out.